Right, hi guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're back once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula One, but not quite, eh? Just a few more days to go until the season opener at Australia. But before that, of course, it's time for me to do my annual 2025 Formula One Constructors predictions. That's right, how I feel the teams are going to end up come the end of the season in the Constructors rankings. We're going to go from 10th up to 1st. I would say it's fairly line astern, business as usual, up and down the field for the majority. However, we've probably got one team a lot lower than people would expect them to go, and maybe two teams higher than people would place them, I would say. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to sink our teeth into it, and we're going to kick things off with 10th place, which will come as no surprise to anyone at all. I have gone for Stake, Kick Me Up the Arse, Sauber. Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto I think is a great driver pairing. Really do think they've got a great lineup, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how both drivers get on with their respective new teams, of course. New team for Hülkenberg and a rookie in Gabriel Bortoleto. I think Bortoleto will take a few races to get up to speed, but then once he gets past maybe Spain, I would say, a few races into the season, I think we're going to see him start matching, if not beating, Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg loves a good solid midfield car. We've never really seen him in a back marker vehicle though, have we? And that could be a telling issue. You know, if he's not comfortable with the car, sometimes he'll not get the performance out of it, even though it's probably at the back anyway. But, you know, if he doesn't drag the most out of it, then we could see him just propping up the back of the field and Bortoleto beating him as well. So it's going to be an interesting season for Sauber. I do feel they're going to have a better season than what they had last season. However, I think all the other teams have taken a further step forward as well. And I can see it being an issue for them, really. I think that the other teams are going to take a bigger leap than what they have. They'll probably score points more often because they've got a better driver lineup this season, without a doubt. But even so, even if they score 10, 12, 15 points or whatever across an entirety of a season, I don't think it's going to be enough to prop them any further than last on the list, which is a great shame. The car looked really unstable. It looked like it had a really narrow window of working opportunities, and then even then, it still didn't look the greatest. So, yeah, 10th place, no surprise to anyone at all. It is Stake, Kick Me Up the Arse, Sauber, but that's going to be no detriment to the driver lineup. I think they've got a really strong driver pair in there. Rookie versus great experience. And if they are going to go forward and prove me wrong, it'll be down to the drivers more than it is the car. I think Audi are mainly focusing on 2026, but they'd want to try and start making some progress, wouldn't they? In 9th place, I have gone for the Racing Bulls, which were formerly Visa, Cash App, Kick Me Up the Arse, Maxi Tampon, RB, don't forget your AlphaTauri, your Toro Rosso, your Minardi. Yeah, it's going to be them anyway. They're going to be in 9th place. Didn't really look that comfortable in testing. Had some good long runs, but the one lap pace didn't look quite there from what we saw in testing. Again, this is all I'm basing it on, just the winter testing and what experts have said. And then my own opinions as well. I think Isaac Hadjar is going to be erratic. He's going to be Yuki Tsunoda of 2021, without a doubt. They've just put another Yuki Tsunoda in the car, effectively. His rookie season is going to be fraught with tantrums on the radio, silly errors in qualifying, silly errors in races, silly lunges to try and prove that he's this all-singing, all-dancing god. And Isaac Hadjar is going to be one of the disappointing rookies of the season, I would say. He's going to be quick on his day. He's going to have good results on his day, but he's not going to be consistent enough for me personally to warrant a proper challenge against his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who has settled into Formula One well. He's adapted well with difficult cars. He knows how to drive a bad car into good results and strong positions where he doesn't deserve to be. We saw that last season. He deserved the shot at Red Bull. Yuki's not been given it because of bullshit reasons, political as always. But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda is going to be very much in the shop window and trying to get himself out of this Red Bull category now. Rumoured to be in talks with Cadillac, of course, who is now an official 11th entry for next year. Rumoured with Aston Martin as well, of course. They're going to Honda engines, aren't they? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all lines up. But Yuki Tsunoda is going to be the main breadwinner of the points this season, without a doubt. He's going to smoke Isaac Hadjar throughout the most part of the season. We've got to be careful with Racing Bull's strategies, though. We saw it with Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, of course, trying to make Ricciardo look better by putting him on the better strategies and left Tsunoda out there like a sitting duck. So we've got to take that with a pinch of salt when they're trying to make their rookie driver look better than the driver that they need to prove that they shouldn't have promoted. It's all going to be politics. It's not about Constructors' results with Racing Bulls. It's all about making their rookie driver look good. It's all about the interns and the twists and the turns of all the deals and stuff going on behind the scenes at Racing Bulls. It's not about the overall end position in the Constructors. That's why they're going to end up ninth. The team will cost themselves points to make Isaac Hadjar look better than he actually is. Obviously disadvantaging Yuki Tsunoda heavily. Isaac Hadjar is not going to get his shit together and they're going to be really inconsistent, and then Yuki Tsunoda, the main breadwinner of the points, is going to only get enough points for the team to end up ninth in the end. So yeah, ninth in the Constructors' Championship. At the end of the season, I am predicting Racing Bulls. 8th place, maybe a controversial one this, I have gone for Aston Martin. Yes, that car looks like a right bag of shite, didn't it? Looked like a right bag of shite in testing. I am pretty sure that they've taken a step backwards from 2024, which is pretty impossible to do because that car was fairly shite towards the end, wasn't it? But yeah, it just looks like it's got nothing to offer. Fernando Alonso has said it looks like we're driving with the Abu Dhabi 2024 car, which isn't great, is it? Because that was not great at the end of the season, as we already know. Lance Stroll, of course, the plum that's in the second seat, he's going to deliver nothing. If it's a difficult car, he's not going to do anything. If it's a good car, he's still not going to do anything. So, but the fact it's shite, it's going to be regular Q1 eliminations for Lance Stroll. I think it's going to be really hard pressed for Alonso to get any higher up than Q2 appearances. I think if he can qualify that Aston Martin in sort of 12th or above, I would say that's a good respectable effort for Fernando Alonso in a single lap pace. And then for the race pace itself, again, just look tricky to handle. So, yeah. Of course, as we already know, Alonso is the Aston Martin at the moment. There's 2 cars on the track, but only one that's going to do anything. And if that car has opportunities to score points, Alonso will get them. I do feel that Adrian Newey, now on board with the team officially, is mainly going to be focusing on 2026. That goes without saying. He's got pretty much a full year to develop the 2026 car now, hasn't he? No doubt they've already started work behind the scenes that I'm sure Adrian Newey will stick in the bin, judging by how bad this car is. But I don't feel that they're going to use his expertise much because they need to focus on those new regulations. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on, but I do feel that Alonso will have his good qualifying days, he'll have his good race days. There'll be races where the car is just more suited to a certain circuit, and I think they'll get some good points with the likes of Alonso, maybe getting into the top 8. 4 points for an 8th place finish is quite a good haul of points. And if he can get them a few races in a row, I can see him beating the Racing Bull and the Stake team. But throughout the most part, it's going to be sporadic scoring. It's not going to be regular. Any chance of a top 5 is near enough impossible. Maybe a crazy race might do that for him. Lance Stroll's going to be nowhere. Alonso's going to try his best. Might get fed up again like we saw midway through last season. And then we've really got problems for Aston Martin, haven't we? But yeah, let's wait and see how they get on. But at the minute, I'm tipping they're going to be 8th. And I'm going to say there's not going to be much forward progress. And if there is, it's going to be too little too late. 8th for Aston Martin. In 7th place, I have gone for Haas, with, of course, their new driver lineup of Esti Besti Ocon and Ollie Behrman, the relative rookie to the sport, of course. Already took part in a couple of races with Haas, scored points in one. Didn't do so great in the other in wet conditions at Brazil, did he? But Ollie Behrman, very much a learning year, but we saw what he was capable of in that Ferrari at Saudi Arabia with no practice. He did a really good job in that car, that race, and I think Ollie Behrman has got promise. The Haas car looked really good in testing, looked really, really strong. They were just doing their own thing like they did last year. Let's understand the tyre life. They've always known that's a weakness, and that's all they were doing. They never went for fast laps. They just went high fuel load, race run, race run, race run, and that, as always, will play dividends for Haas, and it always has done it. Look at it last season. Look how well they did last season with that car. They did a good job there. Difficult to get to the post at the end of the season, but nonetheless, I think 7th place is no disrespect to them there. I just think there's a couple of teams that are maybe got a better car this year, and will be able to deliver that little bit more. Of course, having a rookie in the car is not great. Ollie's going to have a bad day some days, but we've got to account for that, and the team will be aware of that. I've no doubt as well, of course, as always, that once Ollie Bearman starts matching and beating Esteban Ocon will throw his toys out the pram, won't obey team orders, will compromise his own race just so he finishes ahead of his teammate, and will cost the team points ultimately as well. So I've taken that into account and why they're going to be 7th, because there's going to be a fallout at some point. I'll give it halfway in the season. You know, Monza onwards, we'll say that. Monza onwards, there's going to be a big fallout between the both Haas drivers, and it's going to be all on Esty Bestie, because all he ever does is fall out with teammates because he's a wanker. So yeah, that's my predictions on Haas. Maybe have a car to be able to be higher than 7th in the Constructors, but will be hampered by their teammates falling out, and that will be majority fault of Esty Bestie Ocon. 6th place, I have gone for Williams. Looking like a really strong car, that. They are looking really, really good. And I know testing's testing, isn't it, of course? Light fuel loads, fast tyres, and you don't really know what they're doing and what the setup's like, etc. But Carlos Sainz's lap time in the testing, in a relatively green track at the time, wasn't it, on the second day? He was able to put a time in that was 0.8 faster than what Williams managed last year in qualifying. So they were definitely pushing on qualifying day last year, and of course Carlos Sainz was pushing on the testing day, that particular day on day 2. We know, of course, it's all glamour, it was a showman lap time that they put in, of course it was, but that, just compare Williams to Williams, ignore everything else, that's strong. Carlos Sainz said there was still work to do with the car, but felt comfortable in it, and both drivers did look comfortable in it as well. It's a good lineup, that. It's a good lineup. I think Alex Albon, it's his make or break year, personally, in Formula 1. I'm not expecting him to beat Carlos Sainz, but he needs to be close to him. He needs to be close. I can honestly see how it's going to line up is there's going to be, more often than not, one Williams getting into Q3. I think one will just miss out, end up P11, something like that, just on the fringes, and we're going to see a Williams inside the top 8 in qualifying pretty much throughout the season is what I'm expecting. Based on how well they've done in testing and how well they developed the car last year, it was a better car towards the end of the season, even though the results didn't come. There was a couple of races where it was just crap though, wasn't it? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. But for me personally, Williams, a strong driver lineup. Alex Albon, if he can find his 2023 form that he had where he single-handedly got Williams 7th in the Constructors, if he can find that sort of pace, if you've got Carlos Sainz alongside you as well, they're in for a good season at Williams, and that's why they're 6th. I honestly believe that they're going to be doing really well this year. More often than not, points finish with at least one car, and the occasional double points finish as well, is my prediction for them. It really is. Across the season, that's how I think it's going to go. And yeah, major steps forward, big steps forward from Williams this year. The car looks good, the driver lineup looks good, and we'll see how they get on. But 6th for me in the end. 5th place, rather controversially, I'm sure you all agree. People will probably be saying swap these two A's around. Yeah, I have put Alpine in P5. Big ballsy move, that, isn't it, Josh? That is quite a ballsy move, but they looked really good in testing. I think they've gone under the radar a little bit with certain experts and maybe even teams, for example. But I was just watching it, and the car just looked so comfortable. It really did. Again, we're not sure what's happening with the Doohan situation, and I maybe have based this P5 on him being replaced. I'm sorry, Doohan fans, and I hope he gets the season. But I think if Franco Colapinto comes in and does what he did for Williams in the first half of him returning, as opposed to the shunts that he did in the latter stages of that brief stint with Williams, Gasly and Colapinto is a formidable lineup. It will be Q3 appearances for both cars. I'm tipping it'll be points finishes for both cars, even if it's 9th and 10th, because they can't beat the top 4. They're going to be the only team scoring those points that are not inside that top 4. That will get them 5th in the Constructors at the end of the season, won't it? So, yeah, honestly, I feel that it's going to be a big year for Alpine, and I don't know why it's going to be a big year. I just think it will. The car looked good. Gasly, as we know, is a top-rated driver. I really rate him highly. Doohan, we're not sure. Still an unknown quantity at the moment, but I think even with the car that they've delivered at the moment, Doohan could score some points with it. And then if he is replaced for Colapinto, Colapinto could easily score some points as well. So, yeah, maybe a ballsy move, this one, for Alpine to be 5th, because we know they sort of looked into 6th last year. They didn't get it on merit. I say look. it was all down to strategy, and that's a great thing. And it was great to see him on the podium at Brazil. But without that, they would have been 7th or 8th in the Constructors' standings overall, because the car was shite for the most part. But look at that rate of acceleration that they had in progress, with Gasly in particular, with the development. So if they start this season off with a great car already that I'm rating can score points consistently, if they develop at the rate that they're doing, you could see a McLaren sort of appear, couldn't you, out of nowhere, where suddenly it's top 5 finishers and there's other teams having to watch the back. So I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but just the rate of development that we saw last year was very much reminiscent of McLaren a couple of years ago, where they started propping up the back of the field, and then by the end of the season, regular point scorers. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how that one works out. But Alpine, I'm rating them at the moment, and I'm ranking them 5th. Ballsy, but I could be right. Could be. Maybe not, though. 4th place, I have gone for Mercedes-Benz, of course. Yeah, I've simply put them in 4th because I think they've got a great car. Antonelli, inconsistent. I am not sure where he's going to be in terms of pace, but I think he's going to blow hot and cold. He's not going to be as erratic as Isaac Hadjar. I just think he's going to have off days where he's eliminated in Q2 and you think, well, where did that go? And there's going to be some days where he's really great, snatching at the heels of George Russell, putting him under pressure and fighting like a total expert. But I do think this is going to be a difficult season for him to get into Formula One. And yeah, I think Mercedes are prepared for this. Of course they are prepared. They've got a really relatively inexperienced driver racing alongside who is now the team leader in George Russell. George Russell blows hot and cold, as we know. There were some missed opportunities last season, but for the most part did a solid job. But Antonelli, I just feel his pace is going to be inconsistent due to his rookiness and his inexperience, and also his youth. You know, he's younger than most on the field. He's youngest on the grid, actually, isn't he? And that's all going to play a part. So yeah, no disrespect to Antonelli, but I think there's going to be opportunities there where there's going to be a top 5 finish on the cards for him, and he's going to blow it by a rookie error. Silly incidents, poor pace in qualifying, can't get the tyres switched on, switches the tyres on too early and then struggles with tyre life at the end and loses positions. All part of the learning curve, and that's why they're 4th. I think the car's probably good enough for 3rd, but I think overall Antonelli will cost them points, and they'll end up in 4th place. In 3rd place, I've gone for Red Bull. Red Bull, of course, with Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson. Again, I think it's going to be a one-horse race, this one. I think it's going to be all Max Verstappen scoring the majority of the points. That car doesn't look fantastic, does it? Got a very narrow working window once again. But when it was in the groove, even Lawson was able to get some sort of pace out of it and some consistency out of it as well. Especially on his long runs, he did quite a good job. But there's such a narrow working window. If you tweak something a little bit and it doesn't quite work, the car's twitchy, it's erratic, it's understeery. So they need to iron that out across the season. I think, as always, though, Max Verstappen is going to be punching that car above its weight, going to be doing the bare minimum to score whatever points he can. I think, obviously, in Australia, I don't think I'm expecting Red Bull to be on the podium, to be honest. I think they're going to be 5th and 6th, 6th and 7th, somewhere around there. I think it's going to be a bit of a slog for Max Verstappen this year. Will he be able to retain his title? I'm doubtful, but again, depends on the rate of development from Red Bull and seeing what they can do with the car. It looks good at the moment with a really fine operating window, but something goes slightly wrong. The tyre wears a little bit too much, the fuel load comes out of it, or the fuel load's put in it and it doesn't quite work. You know, a bit of rubber even in the front wing seems to be like, you know, it's affecting the car's balance, and then it's twitchy, it's erratic. Even Max Verstappen having spins in testing. It's unusual, isn't it? So yeah, both drivers are going to be inconsistent, but that's because the car's going to be inconsistent. Liam Lawson's going to struggle. We know he's going to struggle. Just how badly, I don't know yet. But I do feel overall, by the end of the season, courtesy of Max Verstappen scoring the majority of Red Bull's points, it is going to be 3rd in the Constructors for Red Bull. 2nd place, I have gone for Ferrari. Ferrari. Didn't have a great testing though, did they, to be honest? There was quite an understeering moment here and there from the team and the car. Didn't quite look like it was going to be as good or a next step up from what we saw last year. But nonetheless, I do feel that Ferrari are going to get on top of that car if it is a little bit difficult for the first couple of races. And then they're going to have a monster of a season. I really do expect it. If Hamilton gets his qualifying pace together, I can see both cars podium position worthy easily. But Hamilton and how close the field is, if he has a bad qualifying and starts down in 8th, 9th, 10th, he's not going to be able to make his way through the field, and that's all he's going to be getting. So we'll see how good Hamilton gets on. Leclerc, though, formidable force. honestly, this is his year for me personally. I think Charles Leclerc will have a fantastic run for the title. I think he's going to do a solid job. Even if he just misses out on the title by the end of it, he will have given it his absolute all. And I really do expect big things from Leclerc this year. I really, really do. I hope that Ferrari just stop being shit, you know, in terms of getting strategies wrong and things like that. They seemed to iron those out last year, a couple of odd calls, but for the most part, throughout the season, it looked like strategy was actually their problem now, as opposed to just everyone else's. So yeah, Leclerc, I am expecting to be a championship contender. I hope he wins it. I really do. I am rooting for Leclerc this year. But if he doesn't win it, he's going to come very close to winning it, I would say that. Hamilton, if he gets his single lap pace in qualifying, will be up there with Leclerc for the most part. But he's got to get that qualifying sorted. And that is going to be Hamilton's main issue this year. If he gets his qualifying wrong, he's not going to be able to make his way up through the field. He's not going to be able to get past the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, the McLarens. He is going to be stuck behind him because it's just going to be so close in that pack. And yeah, if he gets that one lap pace together, it's going to be a good season for Hamilton. If he doesn't, it's going to be a tough one. So that's why I've placed Ferrari second overall. And then, of course, first place, already the reigning Constructors champions, it is McLaren. I've put them here simply for the fact that I think that the car is going to be a solid car once again. Looked like it had great pace in testing, didn't seem to have any issues. The drivers were happy with it. Piastri seems to have taken the next step up again. Norris, his maturity needs to sort itself out a little bit, needs to iron out these little moments of stupidity, I would say, and you know, the errors that he made as well in last season, particularly Brazil 2024, of course, where he had a big opportunity there to take massive points out of Verstappen and he failed to do so. That can't happen. If that starts happening, that's when Leclerc's going to creep in, I feel. And yeah, if Norris irons that out, if Piastri gets on top of his tyre life and having these weird off weekends, which I'm sure he will coming into his third full season of Formula One, then yeah, we're going to be in for a good year for McLaren. I really am expecting him to be strong. And I know people think I hate on him, and I don't. I do think that the drivers are good. I think they're decent. I think they're respectable. I think they're going to be fantastic championship contenders this year. But they need to stop relying on the car being good to win, is what I would say. They need to rely on their own pace, their own initiative. And they need to get more ballsy wheels to wheel. Lando Norris needs to get off the line well. If he's qualifying pole, you need to be leading into the first corner. You need to lead the first lap. This is where it's going to go wrong for McLaren, if it's going to go wrong for that driver's title, because Leclerc, I feel, is going to be there all the time. Any slight mistake from McLaren, bang, that's Leclerc in. And yeah, Oscar Piastri needs to stop having these odd weekends where he's nowhere. Lando Norris needs to iron out the silly little immaturity and not be mentally ready to win a championship. I think this season he has addressed that. He'll be mentally ready this time around. And overall, it's going to be an interesting year. Iron out some mistakes. You've got a formidable lineup there. You've got a great car already. Build on that. Keep going on that. And you're in for fun. I would say that. So yeah, that is my predictions for the Constructors overall. Let me know what you think down below. Yeah, I know there's a couple probably lower than you expected, a couple maybe higher than you expected, but let me know your predictions down in the comments. As always, look forward to seeing what you've put and seeing what your suggestions are going to be across the season. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, much love.